Has this ever happened to you? You're in a room with a man who holds all the typical markers of success. He's smart, accomplished, perhaps even wealthy. He speaks with an air of effortless confidence, his words weighted with authority, and yet there is something missing. His gaze is a shallow thing, skimming the surface, seeking an echo of his own ego, and his charisma feels less like a deep current and more like a slick, polished veneer. The conversation is a performance, a showcase of his own self-importance, and as he speaks, a slow, subtle emptiness begins to seep into the space between you. You feel yourself shrinking, not out of weakness, but out of a profound and almost instinctual withdrawal from the hollowness you sense in him. Now, imagine the inverse. You're with a different man. He might not have the same outward markers of status. He's not trying to impress you. In fact, he seems almost indifferent to the impression he's making. He listens with a stillness that is unnerving and magnetic. His eyes don't just see you, they receive you. There's a depth there, a quiet power that doesn't need to announce itself. He speaks less, but when he does, his words land like stones cast into a deep well, creating ripples that resonate long after. There is no egoic performance, no desperate need for validation. In his presence, something ancient within you recognizes a kind of inner sovereignty, a man who is not a puppet to his own unconscious desires or a slave to external approval. The feminine within you, that wild, deep and intuitive force, doesn't shrink. Instead, it unfurls. It is drawn not by what he has, but by who he is. It is a pull so potent it feels less like a choice and more like the inevitable convergence of two gravitational fields. This is not a story of a woman's weakness in the face of male strength. It is a story of a woman's gravitational power in the face of a man's inner substance or lack thereof. For too long, the concept of feminine energy has been co-opted, watered down, and twisted into a caricature of submissiveness, of being docile, gentle, and perpetually receptive. It is portrayed as a delicate flower to be admired, a quiet shadow to a man's blazing sun. But this is a profound and dangerous misunderstanding. This isn't feminine energy. This is a woman's ego, terrified and compliant, performing a role it believes it must play to be chosen, to be safe, to be loved. This is the puer aeternus, the eternal boy in a woman's psyche, living in an arrested state of emotional adolescence, afraid to claim her own power for fear of being abandoned by the very men she is so desperate to please. The authentic feminine is not a delicate flower. It is the deep ocean. It is the root system of a forest. It is the core of the earth itself, molten and alive beneath the surface. It is a gravitational force, a deep, silent, magnetic power that doesn't push or strive. It simply exists, and in its existence, it creates a field that draws in all that is in alignment with it and repels all that is not. When a woman is truly rooted in her authentic self, when she has journeyed into the depths of her own psyche and faced her own shadows, she stops needing. She stops performing. She stops seeking validation from the external world. She becomes a force of nature. She no longer chases men or proves her worth. Instead, she becomes the center of her own universe, and men, those who are themselves on a journey toward their own inner wholeness, are drawn into her orbit. This isn't a strategy, it is an inevitability. The truth is, many men are deeply unconscious of their own inner state. They are driven by an unexamined ego, by a shadow they have never had the courage to confront. They live in a world of external achievement and conquest, believing that power comes from what they can acquire rather than from what they can command within themselves. A man who has not faced his own inner chaos is a man who is perpetually seeking to control his external world. He is a man who will project his own unworthiness onto you, demanding that you be a certain way, act a certain way, or look a certain way to fill a void that only he can fill. He will be drawn to a woman who reflects his own superficiality back to him, a woman who is also performing, because the encounter between two deep and authentic souls is an encounter with the unconscious, and that is a terrifying thing for a man who has never had the courage to look within. He seeks a reflection, not a mirror. He seeks an echo, not a response. And in this dance, a woman who is still operating from her own wounds, who is still seeking to be chosen, will unconsciously enter into this contract. She will become the mirror, the echo. She will become the stage upon which his unexamined ego performs, believing that if she can just be good enough, beautiful enough, submissive enough, he will finally see her, he will finally choose her. This is the tragic and unending cycle of codependency, where two lines half-selves attempt to make themselves whole through the other, a doomed project from the start. To truly activate your feminine, gravitational power, you must first understand the profound and often painful journey of individuation. This is the psychological process of becoming a unified, whole individual, of integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of yourself. It is a hero's journey into your own inner landscape, a descent into the dark and uncharted territories of your psyche. It is not a gentle, feel-good process. It is a confrontation. It is a reckoning with the parts of yourself you have been told are unlovable, with the trauma you have buried, with the anger you have suppressed, and with the grief you have denied. You must sit with your own discomfort, with your own shadow, and learn to befriend it. For as long as you are running from the darkest parts of yourself, you are also running from your deepest power. This is where the wisdom of Stoic philosophy becomes not just a thought exercise, but a lifeline. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." What is courage in this context? It is not the courage to fight a physical battle. It is the courage to face yourself. It is the courage to embrace the pain of emotional detachment from external outcomes, to become indifferent to the opinions of others, to the validation of men, and to the fleeting nature of their attention. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our worth is an internal state, a fortress that cannot be breached by the opinions of others unless we allow it. Your worth is not a negotiation, it is a fact of your existence. When you internalize this, when you become the unshakable sovereign of your own inner kingdom, you cease to be a puppet to the whims of men who are not yet kings of their own souls. The men who are themselves on this path, who are doing their own inner work, are not seeking a woman to complete them. They are seeking a woman who is already whole. They are looking for a partner in this great and terrifying journey of becoming. They are not afraid of your depth. They are not intimidated by your power. On the contrary, they are drawn to it. A man who has confronted his own animus, the masculine principle within his own unconscious, recognizes the untamed feminine in you as a mirror of his own potential for emotional depth and spiritual growth. The shallow, unexamined man wants a woman to be a mirror of his ego. The conscious man wants a woman to be a mirror of his soul. This is the psychological weight of what is happening in the current dating landscape. So many women are chasing men who are emotionally and spiritually stunted, and they wonder why they feel so perpetually unseen and unfulfilled. The answer is simple and brutal. They are seeking love from men who are incapable of giving it because they have not yet found it within themselves. A man cannot give you what he has not yet earned for himself. He cannot love your depth if he has not had the courage to face his own. This is not a judgment on men. It is a clinical observation of the human psyche. You cannot build a castle on a foundation of sand. You cannot build a deep, meaningful connection with a man who is still operating from the superficiality of his own unexamined life. This is why your first and most important relationship is not with a man. It is with yourself. It is with your own shadow, your own pain, your own power. This is the real meaning of self-worth psychology. It is not about affirmations and positive self-talk. It is about the gut-wrenching, soul-crushing, and ultimately liberating work of facing all that you are. Only when you have done this work, only when you have become the sovereign of your own inner world, can you truly become the gravitational force you are meant to be. This gravitational power, this deep feminine force, is not a learned skill. It is a state of being, an organic byproduct of emotional and psychological maturity. It's the difference between an individual who is performing a role, and an individual who is embodying their true nature. The woman who is still performing is a constant seeker. She seeks external validation, external approval, and external markers of her own worth. She studies the algorithms of attraction, the scripts of seduction, and the unspoken rules of the game. She is a strategist, and in her strategy, she becomes rigid, fragile, and predictable. She is perpetually in a state of anxiety, her nervous system always on high alert, waiting for a man to give her the sign that she is enough. But the woman who has done the work, who has faced her own demons and integrated her shadow, does not need to perform. She is not a strategist, she is an artist. She is not a seeker, she is the sacred space. Her power is not in what she does, but in who she is. She moves through the world with a quiet confidence that needs no explanation. She speaks less, but her silence is not a sign of meekness. It is a testament to her inner fullness. She listens with a profound presence that makes others feel seen and heard in a way they have never been before. She is not trying to be the most beautiful woman in the room. She is simply the most alive. Her energy is not a desperate plea for attention. It is an invitation to depth. This is the psychological truth behind the phrase, "Men are drawn to women who are happy on their own." It is not about a superficial happiness, a constant smile, and a bubbly demeanor. It is about a profound sense of inner wholeness and self-possession. It is about a woman who has found her own source of joy and fulfillment, who has built a life so rich and so meaningful that the presence of a man is a delightful addition, not a desperate necessity. This is the Tower of Attraction, the principle of non-striving. The feminine, in its purest form, is receptive, not because it is weak, but because it is complete. It doesn't need to chase because it is the center of its own universe. A man who is still chasing external validation, who is still a boy living in the body of a man, will find this terrifying. He will be drawn to a woman who is also seeking, because in her frantic energy, he sees a reflection of his own unexamined chaos. The unindividuated man is threatened by a woman's wholeness because it confronts him with his own fragmentation. This isn't about becoming cold or aloof. It is about becoming emotionally free. It is about the profound liberation that comes from no longer being a puppet to the opinions of others. It is about the Stoic discipline of detaching your self-worth from external outcomes. Seneca reminds us that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. For a woman, this often translates to suffering in her imagination over a man's potential rejection, over the fear of being alone, over the worry that she is not enough. This imaginary suffering keeps her tethered to men and situations that are not in alignment with her highest good. It keeps her performing, chasing, and settling. The greatest act of self-love is not a bubble bath or a day at the spa. The greatest act of self-love is the brutal and honest work of facing yourself. It is the courageous journey into your own shadow, the integration of your trauma, and the claiming of your own inner authority. It is the moment you realize you are not a girl to be chosen by a man, but a sovereign woman who chooses herself again and again. It is from this place of unshakable self-possession that your true gravitational power emerges. It is an energy that doesn't scream for attention. It simply exists. And in its existence, it becomes utterly irresistible to the men who are worthy of its depth. The woman who embodies her gravitational power has gone beyond the simplistic, binary thinking of traditional gender roles. She understands that masculine and feminine are not boxes to be checked, but fundamental principles of the cosmos that exist within all of us. She has a deep respect for the mature masculine, for the energy of discipline, focus, and purposeful action. Because she has cultivated these qualities within herself. She knows how to set boundaries, how to say no with conviction, and how to stand her ground. This is not a rebellion against the masculine. It is an integration of her own inner animus. She is not in a perpetual state of waiting to be acted upon. She is an active force in her own life, a co-creator of her own reality. This is the central paradox and the ultimate liberation. The more you embody the strength of the mature masculine within you, the strength of self-discipline, of radical self-honesty, of unwavering focus on your own purpose, the more you become a magnetic beacon for the mature masculine in the world. The unexamined man is drawn to a woman's external femininity because it is a novelty, a pretty object to possess. The conscious man is drawn to a woman's inner wholeness because it is a mirror of his own potential for sovereignty and a promise of a profound, soul-level partnership. He is not looking for a woman to lean on him. He is looking for a woman to stand alongside him. He is not looking for a soft surface to project his fragile ego onto. He is looking for a woman with the psychological resilience to hold space for his humanity and his own journey of becoming. Consider the Stoic ideal of the prokopton, the one who is making progress. This applies to both men and women on the path of individuation. The woman who is a prokopton is not afraid of being alone, for she knows that solitude is not a state of lack, but a state of profound psychological and emotional growth. She understands, as Epictetus taught, that her peace of mind and her sense of worth are not contingent on external circumstances, including the presence or absence of a man. Her self-worth is not a fragile thing that can be taken or given away. It is a fortress she has built with the mortar of her own self-knowledge and the stones of her own resilience. She is so deeply rooted in herself that she cannot be uprooted by a man's indecisiveness, his emotional immaturity, or his fear of commitment. His withdrawal is not a personal rejection. It is simply the natural gravitation of two misaligned energies. This is the essence of emotional freedom. It is the liberation from the frantic need to control outcomes, to manipulate feelings, to engineer a relationship into existence. It is the radical acceptance that some men will not be ready for your depth, and that is not a flaw in you. It is a sign that their journey is simply not in alignment with yours. And in that acceptance, there is an immense and freeing power. You are no longer a hostage to their timetable, their emotional availability, or their ego. You are free to continue your own journey, knowing that your path is yours and yours alone. So, the journey to becoming a gravitational power is not about learning tricks or techniques. It is about a lifelong commitment to the soul. It is about the courage to face your own wounds, to integrate your shadow, and to claim your own inner sovereignty. It is about becoming so whole, so rooted, and so self-possessed that your energy becomes a magnetic field that draws in all that is in alignment with your highest self and effortlessly repels all that is not. You stop chasing, you stop performing, you simply exist, and in your existence, you become an irresistible force. The question is no longer, how do I get him, but what kind of man is worthy of this kind of woman? And the answer, you will find, is a man who is not looking for a woman to save him, but a woman who has already saved herself. End